Hello, welcome to another episode of Executive Suite. I'm your host, Thomas Braun, and today we're here with Jordan Goure from Pixamem, which is a company that's going to revolutionize recruitment in many different sectors. But right now, they're focused on hospitality and a few others in that realm. Jordan, can you please give us a general overview of your company to start with?
So I started out in hospitality, like a lot of people, when I was in university, working in hospitality part-time, serving, you learn time management, a lot of great skills. But I took a little bit of different path. And when I was 19, I opened up my first restaurant. So I opened up my first business with my brother, who is also our chief creative officer at our company, Pixamem. So we opened up a restaurant. That was around 2008. And about 2, 3 years later, we had 4 hospitality locations. We had live entertainment venues. We got into micro manufacturing. We were the first microbrewery in our region. At one point in time, we had about 200 staff members within our hospitality group. And every time we had to hire, I would go post a job, let's say on like a Kijiji or something like that back then. I think this was even pre-Indeed. And I would get like maybe thousands of resumes because everyone wants to work in hospitality sometime in their life. They're very sought after positions. Well, back then with the HR team of two, being my brother and I, it was how do we go through these thousands of resumes to fill these positions that are often coming up because you have a lot of like high turnover of students filling these positions. It's hard for retention in hospitality when you're seasonal. So there's a lot of issues, right? So I said, there's got to be something better. And back then, I identified and we started to identify that the issue was the resume itself. It's a piece of paper, doesn't really accurately reflect who the people are that are applying to the jobs. And I manually have to go through these pieces of paper. So that was back around 2011, 2012. Fast forward to 2020, it's about 8 years later. Over that time, we launched a real estate development company where we developed a number of resorts and high potential use properties that we currently own in our hospitality portfolio. We also started an estate winery, so we expanded our hospitality uh, businesses. But still, when we went to hire, and as a lot of people during COVID, everyone got laid off and you had to rehire, and you got laid off and you had to rehire. The process really didn't change. So we looked at recruitment firms. We were a much bigger company at this point. And I said, you know what? This is, I think, the time to bring our company back to the back to light. That's going to solve this issue that we're encountering as business owners. We're relatively technically savvy people ourselves. I've always been a technical person in nature. My brother's always been a creative, so we work well together on that. So during COVID, we found a co-founder, a chief technology officer that we brought in. He's a really a guru in enterprise tech development. Built things from Ticketmaster to Harvard Press. His name's Nicholas Mastromati. And we basically told him our idea, the business model we had, and the product that we wanted to develop. And then we started development on it. In 2021, we put a team together, a dev team together, some creatives, and we put a whole team together. We built the product. We started beta testing the candidate side in 2022, and we launched fully to the market in 2023.
Wow. So, has it been approximately 2 years since you launched?
Yeah, so from our full market launch, which was June of 2023, we just passed the 2 year mark. We did all of that bootstrap. So for the first year we operated, as a lot of, we have some great advisors to our team here. We've got a vice president from the Globe and Mail. We've got a previous vice president of IBM Global that sit on our board. So they said, bootstrap, we're going to operate. We're going to give you great advice. We're going to get some market traction. Then we're going to do our first seed round. So we did our first seed round a year ago. We did a 7-figure raise. We closed it. We closed it basically within the first month after our demo day. And we've been with that investor ever since. He was a previously very successful founder in HR tech space and compliance software for HR. He had a 11-figure, or I guess a 9-figure exit. So we really wanted to understand the acquisition space. We wanted to understand, obviously, the scaling to this level, the 10 million ARR type of company. So we strategically found an investor in that space, and then he joined us a year ago.
Okay, and how has it been in signing up new customers during that time? How's
So
that
since
going?
the raise, since we've been full market launch, and is that the question?
Yeah. Like, how are things going?
Yeah, so it's been great. I think maybe the reason we found each other is because you concentrate on hospitality as well, right? And we just signed a contract in May of this year with ORMA, so the Ontario Restaurant Hotel Motel Association, which is the largest hospitality organization in Canada. They have 11,000 locations that they represent, almost 5,000 members. So we are the workforce partner, software partner for the entire organization. We're building out a ton of cool tools right now for student access. So for students to actually onboard, build a Pixamem, which we're going to talk about the technology shortly, and enter the workforce, be introduced directly to industry, which in this case would be hotels, motels, restaurants, franchise operators. So we build what's called job networks for these organizations. So in this situation, it's a hospitality job network to introduce people right to the jobs that are available for all of their members.
Okay. So how does it work then? Does each employer have to set up an account, or how does that work?
Yeah, so not necessarily. So when we power a job network, we allow external employer posting. So they can actually just go to the job network. They can post a job on the network without actually creating an account or paying for the software. So we do allow that. We work off what's called workspace architecture, where when we power these networks, you can get a user access without building your own account. This was actually some mindful development that we did about a year ago after the raise, where we really expanded how our software and our tech stack would function. So by doing this, we can power large networks, thousands of locations, and we can do it with just turning a switch.
Okay.
So that's how the employer side
Mhm.
works. And then when
Yeah.
employers do sign up and get their own accounts, they get access to an entire suite of tools. So everything from an applicant tracking system to what we call a candidate hub, where all the candidates that want to work for your company are in one place, and you can filter through them with the structured data that we intake for you. We have a non-biased matching algorithm that we're going to talk about that we built with funding from the federal government, where they get access to. So there's a ton of tools that employers get access to once they build an account, but they can post jobs for free on our networks.
Oh, I get it. Okay. So, and is it free for the prospective employees?
Yeah, so we always say for candidates, it's free and always will be. All the tools that we built, I think I said we started building and we launched beta testing in 2022 earlier. So what we launched first was our candidate side of our platform, which is a Pixamem. So a Pixamem is dynamic work profile. So as I said, we identified that resumes were the issue, not a great reflection of who the person is. Resumes as they are now, as they're submitted, are PDFs, which is a lot of times pictures of documents. So it's not actually text that can be read properly by AI and ATS reading systems. So when you're a user, you come to pixame.com. I go to sign up as a candidate. It'll ask me several questions, conversational style onboarding, we call it. And while it's asking me the questions, we're learning who you are. We're getting these key data points. Then you can upload an old resume, a LinkedIn CV file, anywhere that you might have a collection of your work experience, education experience. Our AI parses that, it structures it for you, it builds you your profile. So now you can apply to any job on our platform. You can apply to any job on ZipRecruiter, Indeed. You can use this to export and apply to any job board in the world now. So that's the candidate tools we built, which we're very proud of. We actually won some innovation awards for those tools just last year. So that's the candidate side of the platform. That whole side is what's connected to the employer side. So when you turn it on as an employer workspace, this is how you onboard your employees now. So structured data, we structure the intake. By doing this, you can filter through thousands of people in seconds. Every data point that they put in on onboarding is searchable, and everything that we feed to our algorithm, and I'd rather separate and talk about this because this is a beast in its own, is basically trained within your workspace.
Okay, that's interesting. So, okay, well, let's go on to the algorithm part. Is that the part that people would call AI driven, or is it not AI?
Yeah, so you have AI, right? So artificial intelligence, which are functioning off mostly LLMs. Then you also have machine learning, which are models that we would train ourselves through data that you might connect to an LLM, depending on how you're functioning. Um, so what we do actually, in the way that we power algorithms, we control the flow of information to the AI part of it. And we're training our model, we restrict this amount of information. So the reason we do this is to reduce bias. So we'll talk about some issues as they stand in the market now. So we just saw the Workday lawsuit, right? We're in a law podcast here. So we saw the Workday lawsuit because their matching algorithm was deemed to be very biased. So the reason for that is what they were doing was just feeding resumes, right? So all of this personally identifiable information of candidates applying to jobs right into an LLM or even into a model that they were training, but unrestricted flow of information. Then they're matching them to jobs, right? So they have employers' jobs, they're matching them to the jobs. So we call this cosine similarity. The issue with that is now the LLM, so first, it intakes all this information. Now, as a user, if I'm an employer hiring, I hire somebody, it gives me a good match. I keep hiring, let's say, certain people from certain demographics. Now it starts
Hmm.
to learn how I'm using the algorithm and it starts to adjust the match scores on that basis. So now maybe it'll only start sending me people from North America, or it'll only start sending me people from a certain state or a certain religious sect. So you can see how it can start to deem bias information by just matching and trying to figure out who you're looking for. So this is a big issue. This is across HR. It's a massive problem. We're feeding way too much personal identifiable information to these LLMs and to these models. So what we do is we take just the objective criteria: education, work experience, skills. We've actually built skills frameworks. We match to these frameworks. So we've basically created all the objective data, or not created all the objective data, collected all the objective data. We tokenize all the personal identifiable information, so it makes it more secure. And now we can match you to these jobs in an objective way as opposed to a subjective way.
Interesting. And is there, like, do the employees make a video of themselves or what? Like, is this more of a multimedia resume?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So in our onboarding, you would do everything from language proficiency, access to transportation, all of the stuff that would be on a resume, as we talked about earlier: education, work experience, hobbies, interest, about sections, certifications. We're about to get into identity verification. So everything that's on a resume and more. So for the media section, we have what's called a highlight section, where you can link past portfolios or projects, whether it's a live URL link or you embed a portfolio. So it's pretty much a collection of all the information you'd want to share with an employer to really put your best foot forward. That's the branding. We call it a Pixamem. It's a picture of you in the workforce. It's a leveled up resume. So we collect all this information, and we don't just collect it. Again, we structure all of it, so all of it's searchable within our database, within our candidate hubs. So
Okay.
that's
Mhm.
really the bread and butter and the differentiator of our platform.
Right. But they don't do some sort of an introductory video of themselves or
You
anything
can
like that.
attach videos. Like in the
Oh, you
highlight section,
can.
there's also a section where you can attach videos. It's
Okay.
really up to users how much information they want to include on their profiles.
Right. Okay. And do you do any coaching? Like, does your system coach people to make themselves look as good as possible?
Yeah, so we do have tool tips. We don't allow generated responses within these entry fields. We got away from that. We think one of the biggest issues in the market today is all of these generated resumes. It's all pure fabrications. Where we talked about earlier, where a decade ago I couldn't find people based on a piece of paper. Now, how do you find people? What Gen Z is doing today is they're smart, right? They've learned how to game the system. They're taking a job description that they want, they're putting into GPT. They're saying, create me
Hmm.
a resume based on this. They're pulling that, they're adding in,
Hmm.
sprinkling in a little bit of truths of themselves. Now they're submitting this application. That's a pure fabrication. It's a big issue. We don't allow generated responses. We do allow you to help clean up the responses within the entry fields. And what we actually do for our users is actually very unique. And we got a lot of shred funding for this from our federal government. um, we went to the government in a project base and we said, look, here's the issue. People are creating resumes, they're creating templates, they're using GPT, they're doing all these things I just talked about, but then they're not actually formatting it to be read properly by AI and ATS. So formatting meaning like proper fonts, proper columns, proper sections on a resume, proper amount of words in each section. So if you don't format properly, the ATS would likely give you a low score and you might not actually get to a hiring manager. So a lot of people aren't getting jobs, not because they don't have great resumes, but because they're not being read properly by machine reading systems. So we went to the government and we said, we can solve this. What we're going to do is we're going to benchmark test all of the profiles that we create for all of our users. We're going to get into the 90th percentile. We're going to learn what those templates look like. And then we're going to duplicate that for all users. So that's what we do in our template builder now. So once you do your onboarding and you get your profile, you can export it to a PDF, which isn't an image. It's programmed text within it, and it formats it properly to be read by ATS systems. So that's what our users get by just using our software.
Interesting. So now, are you using AI for anything, or are employers just entering the filters that they want?
Yeah. So, like I said, we're using AI for a lot of things. So, we're using AI, for example, to parse and structure the profile for you. So, it's helping build your profile. So, all this stuff that I talk about that seems like it would take a long time for a user that's never built a resume, you could be a newcomer to our country, or you could be a student building your first resume, and you can build a Pixamate in 3 to 5 minutes. So, it's
Okay.
assisting you the entire time.
Yeah. No, I meant more from the employer side. Like, so you're an employer, and like in Ontario, you've got these 11,000 employers who are now going to start using the system, and who knows how many thousands and thousands of people will have their Pixames on your platform. Um, so how, like, are they using AI to search out the right candidates? You were talking about that. Can we go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so the first step is they can use the non-biased machine learning algorithm that we've built, so the matching algorithm. So like I said, there's AI and machine learning components to that
Okay.
algorithm. So that's one part that helps them find the best matches in a bias resistant manner. Also in their data entry, we have a lot of AI assistance. So employers, when they're building their jobs, this is another part of the issue. A lot of employers will build a job, the job builder on Indeed or one of these job boards, and sometimes they won't put a lot of information in the job that would actually make the job look great to people to apply to it. So
Hmm.
we've started building, so we generate job descriptions. We pull the skills from the job descriptions to allow our matching to be more effective. So when you're entering jobs, just like when users are entering their experience and their work history, when employers are entering the job details, AI is assisting them in that entry. It's making it easier for them and it's making it better for our matching system. So yeah, it's used on both sides of the platform, very in depth.
So it sounds like you're using your own experience to help out all these other employers who, aren't advertising the job properly. Um, so, you start off by sort of differentiating yourself by pointing out the depth and breadth of your experience in hospitality and the success that you've had there. So, what other things have you brought from that hospitality world into this venture that really somebody who didn't have your experience wouldn't know about?
Yeah, I brought a mix of all. So, as I said, I started in hospitality, then I got into manufacturing and then real estate development.
Hmm.
These are
Hmm.
key industries we target. So, we've talked about hospitality and what I brought in there for obviously the things you need to know. Let's say for hospitality, you need to know availability is a lot times more important than education, right? It doesn't matter what you're in school for in hospitality unless you're in a hospitality specific program, but can you work on the actual available shifts while you're also balancing a busy schedule? So these
Hmm.
are things that we brought to like the data entry from hospitality. On real estate, we just signed on one of the largest real estate brokerages in our country as well. And what we are doing for them is onboarding agents. So first off, agents don't apply with resumes either, right? A resume is useless to a real estate agent. It's even useless to a lot of the admin and marketing people in the real estate world. So what we're doing is like pulling sales data. We're doing proper pre-screening, gathering the proper information if you want to apply to work for a brokerage. So think of a Pixamem as a dynamic work profile that can change to whatever job you're applying to, and that's how you put your best foot forward as an applicant. But now as an employer, that's how you adjust the onboarding to make sure you're screening through the people in intake to find the best people to work for your company. So that's why in this profile creation way that we really double down on is change the game for hiring and so real estate with some of my background in real estate, we've also now applied it to that sector. So that's what I've been doing. It's kind of all the lessons I've learned in business over 18 years. I've now put into the product development and the roadmap of this technology. And I think you can tell I love my job. So it's been an awesome journey being able to, scale that. You go from running your businesses to building something that can help countless businesses in the industries that I understand.
So so it looks like these partnerships you're developing are really the key to scaling up.
Yeah. We just started powering hospital networks, and we just signed on some of our first public sector, some of our first municipalities as well. So every time we're learning from these industries, my wife is actually a nurse, so she was in critical care for a long time. Now she's patient care coordinating. I understood that there's issues at hospital hiring as well, right? It's they're going through call lists a lot of times to fill gaps. So we actually started doing onboarding for a big hospital network just outside of Toronto. So we're starting to see that our technology can be adopted for a lot of different industries. That's why I said at the start, hospitality is a natural target because I love the industry of tourism. I sit on the board of directors for tourism for our entire region still to help pay it forward and help tourism in my region. But we started understanding that our technology can be used and it's somewhat industry agnostic. So that's why our target is more the people that would use it being emerging talent that are applying to these jobs as opposed to the industries themselves.
Yeah. I remember seeing a podcast where somebody was talking about, they were talking about this issue of firms using AI to hire people. And they were talking about one of the big accounting firms, it's something like it was KPMG or Price Waterhouse, where they were specifically giving a lot of points to people in their algorithm who played lacrosse. If you were on the lacrosse team, and that's based on the subsequent performance of those people. So it's not just a bias where, oh, we like lacrosse players, because of course nobody Not
A
very
lot of
many
different
people have
a
that
lot
bias, right? But it was sort of one
a
of
lot
these
of different people play lacrosse, yeah.
yeah, but it's just one of these unexpected things that came out of their system, and they put in the data. These are the results that we've gotten in the past. Tell us who we should hire in the future. Um, is there anything like that in your system?
Yeah, so Thomas, I love what you just did there. What you just identified is the reason that you need human and human resources still, right? Making these decisions. If you don't know this, right? Like an algorithm might not find that, right? It might not find that it was the similarity was that they were all lacrosse players. But a human in HR identified in this story that you just told me that man, we've had great retention with lacrosse players. Why is that? Obviously, it's not biased. There's a lot of different peoples from all different creeds and credences that are playing lacrosse, but why is it? Maybe because they had to show up to practice every day, right? Maybe persistence, work ethic. There's a lot of things that are in that we can allocate to like high level sports, varsity sports, and the structure that those entail. So that's what we talk about. So when we're talking about what my software and our software at Pixamem does, is we're putting the human back in human resources. By being objective in our matching, we allow you still to make the best matches and find the people that you want to hire. And then we give you more data to be able to track why it is those people are the best for your organization. So something like a lacrosse player would be a data point in our structured intake. So you'd actually be able to search by that. I could search lacrosse in our system. I could have 100,000 people in my candidate hub, and I could find the lacrosse players in seconds. I wouldn't have to pull them out of a filing cabinet, a piece of paper to find that. So that's really any employer can set pre-screening. They can set the questions that they want to do on intake to identify and separate. That's not bias, and we don't feed that information into our algorithm, so it actually can't change it. But you can filter through it. So that's the difference between filtering and matching.
Yeah. Well, I think there's going to be even bigger demand for your platform if the economy goes into a recession. Things do seem to be changing. One of my earlier guests said that he recently advertised for a job. He's an IT consulting company, and he got 400 resumes from people looking for one of these IT jobs. So, who's got the time to go through 400 resumes and, really look at them and figure it all out? So I think that number of industries that you could be doing this for is probably pretty endless.
It is, and we're starting to find that. So now it's having a targeted approach. We're still a relatively small team, right? We just closed a seed round. So now it's like, where are we going to see the most traction? And that's the decisions I have to make every day. Yeah, no, and honestly, the world's changing. AI's changed the world. Now it's adapting to that use, and that's what we're doing here at Pixamem. While not, like I said, losing the sight that it's called human resources. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, well, I think there's a huge need on both sides because the other thing too is that those people who sent in the 400 resumes, when you hear about their personal stories, they're applying at 400 different places before they get a job. So
Yeah,
it's just a huge amount of paperwork and wasting time on everybody's part. It would be great if there was something like what you're doing where a person can post their resume and then they just start to get hopefully interviews out of that without having to go through that
yeah,
process of sending out. I've read a piece and story about in the press about a recent MBA graduate in the United States who had sent out 2,000 resumes, no response, and then finally got a job through an alumni connection who introduced him to somebody.
yeah. I mean, we hear this from users all the time. We hear it from both sides. We hear from the candidates that are sending out countless and never hearing back, getting ghosted, which is obviously a popular term in dating, but should not be a popular term in hiring. But we hear people being ghosted all the time. There's actually new laws coming into place. Some just started in July 1st here in Ontario. There's some new ones coming in January where employers have to get back to users that applied for jobs within a reasonable amount of time. And if they got to an interview stage, they have to track the communication to show why they hired the people they did. And this is to combat ghosting. So we agree with some of these rule changes. And something else you said there, where it's like the 400 who has the time. There's actually a stat for that. So in enterprise hiring, they say they only have 7 seconds to look at each resume. So remember when these people are building these resumes and sending out 2,000, the person that's looking at it, if it gets to them, if it gets through the
Hmm.
ATS intake system, if it gets
Hmm.
to them, the person looking at it likely only has 7 seconds. So are
Mhm.
you putting the data and are you putting all the information in a way that they're going to see what you want them to see? Because that's what Pixamay does for you. It puts it in a way, it puts it in a easy to find location that's going to be read properly by machines and humans. So you're more likely to get that application through and get to an interview stage. That's what we do for users. And then we save a ton of time for HR teams. So I thank you for identifying that just through this conversation because there very much is a need for it.
Yeah, and I guess this is just the, very beginning, and you'll be adding more features, and as AI evolves, you can add more features, for people to make themselves look better and for employers to find the right people. So that sounds really good.
I think I would just like to leave with this that if you're applying for a job or you're hiring, just look at your process. It's not that you have to use Pixama, but I think everyone, because everyone's scared about the era of AI. I sit on panels at conferences, and the question always comes up: am I going to lose my job because of AI? Right? You're not going to lose your job because of AI. You're going to lose your job because you've not adapted. And you're not using AI in your everyday work, whether it's your workflows or just what you're doing personally. So I would leave it with this: that whether it's HR or anywhere, look at what you're doing, and if there's a way to do it better, just do it better. And if that's with our platform, Pixamay, then use Pixamay. If it's something else, use it because that's what's going to keep us as a society moving forward, and that's what's going to keep us in the driver's seat, and which is very important, I think, at this era of development where technology is growing at a very rapid pace.
Thank you. And people want to find out more, go to pixame.com. So it's similar to resume, but with PIC at the beginning. So PICSUME.com. You can find out more about it if you're an employer, especially a restaurateur in Ontario, I guess, a hotel operator, any of those hospitality people. That's actually, and that's recent. So that's actually quite newsworthy. Well, thanks again for coming on, Jordan, and that was very insightful.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem. Thanks
bye.
for having me, Thomas.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna wrap this up. Bye for now, everyone. Till next time.